Welcome, Portland Metro. We are Native Nations for March. Welcome, I'm David Liberty, your co-host, with two guests tonight from the NAYA Canoe Family. I'd like to thank you very much. Mary Ranville is here with us, and Frank Arby.
LB?
LB,
LB.
with an E.
No, ALBY.
ALBY. And we are going to be talking about the NAYA Canoe Family and any other topics of interest that may come up tonight. But let's start out with Mary. And Mary, one thing we want our viewers to understand is your tribal affiliation. Let's start with your tribal affiliation.
Sure. I'm an enrolled member of the Sisseton Wahpeton Oyate, and that's in the northeastern corner of South Dakota. So we are a woodland tribe, and so people think of the Lakota, Dakota people as plains Indians out on the grassland.
Hunters.
Yeah, but we're woodland, and so we're kind of a combination of lakes and prairies, and yeah.
So your foods were more than buffalo. What did you eat?
Wild rice.
Oh, ricers, yeah.
Monoman.
From the lakes.
Right.
Very good. And Frank, what is your tribal affiliation?
I'm a Inupiat Eskimo, born and raised in Nome, Alaska.
Wow.
My mother was a full-blood Inupiat. There are two Eskimo. I like to explain to the people that there are two clans in the Eskimo world. There's the Yupiks and the Inupiats, and very closely related. The Yupiks are around Bristol Bay, and the Inupiats are from Unalakleet, Nome, Point Barrow, on the northern part of Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was a full-blood. My grandfather and my grandmother were both full-bloods, and they came from Little Diomede Island, which is just a rock out in the Arctic Ocean. But from my grandfather's house on Little Diomede, you can see Russia.
Really?
But then it's only about 4.5, maybe 5 miles away, and on a nice day you can see Russia, which is Big Diomede Island, which is also occupied by Eskimo people. But when they divided, the two, they drew the date line right down between the two islands.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, after World War II, Russia moved all the Eskimos off of the island and moved them over to Siberia.
And is it a military outpost?
No. Well, it might be. The Russians might have an outpost on there now, since that's part of their land. But my grandfather, back in late 1800s, he was on a whaling ship. And
well, he must be familiar with whaling.
See, a long time ago, the whalers used to like to get the Eskimo people on the ships because the Eskimos knew, when the whales would pass through, and what type of whales, the bowheads, different species of whales would pass through certain areas, and so they would get the Eskimos on their ships to help them, find the whales, because they knew where they were.
Yeah. Well, besides whale, they ate what? Walrus? Mostly meat, right?
Walrus, seal, lots of seafood,
a
lot of salmon up there.
Yeah, good.
But whale, walrus, and seal, was the mainstay.
Yeah. Well, we can discuss this more, Frank, but we want to get to the NAYA Canoe Family. That's our topic of discussion here tonight. So when we wear that subject out, maybe we'll get back to some of the fun Alaska stuff.
We'll talk about Muktuk then.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
So Mary, the NAYA Canoe Family was started recently, right?
Yes, and it was really, this is our third year. We started almost 3 years ago to the date, actually. And it was started by a small group of elders there at NAYA. That's the NAYA, it's the Native American Youth and Family Center.
Thank you. Yes.
Over on 5135 Northeast Columbia Boulevard. So
Right.
it's right over by the airport, right in that area. So anyway, there's a group of elders who meet on a regular basis. Sometimes we meet 4, 5, 6 times a week, but anyway, so we really get to know each other and we socialize together, and so it's a really good group that meets.
Yeah.
Well, we had, most of us have come from different parts of the country, and we have experienced our own kinds of life journeys, and we had here in the Northwest heard of the Canoe Journey, and this was so specific to the Northwest Coast, but yet there wasn't a Canoe Journey family here in Portland, and so we just took it upon ourselves to really focus on that and say, this is what we want to do. This would be our legacy. This is something that we really wanted to get going.
Nice.
So it's been 3 years, and since then it's grown into something very organic, yet very dynamic group of people made up of families from all walks of life who are just interested and really want to promote this canoe journey as a life skills, as a way of living, actually. And so we've had a lot of support just from the community. We're housed at NAYA, and the board of directors approved our program, said that this is a good thing. But we have our liaison there. Our staff liaison is Danita Fry. She is the coordinator of the Portland Youth and Elders Council.
Okay.
And
sorry, Donita couldn't be here with us tonight.
Danita was going to be here. She wanted to be here, just couldn't make it. But
well.
yeah. She'll be here another time, I'm sure.
But she does good work.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's just
Great.
been our lifeline to NAYA and has promoted us there within, the NAYA itself. So, so we're really happy to have her as our staff liaison. But
Now, you guys don't have your own boat. Is
we
that
do
true?
have our
Oh,
own
you do
canoe.
have your own.
And it is
Okay.
being built right now. And
It's not that one up at Portland State, is it?
No, that's the, I want to say
Somebody
the
else's.
Marshall Islands, or
Oh,
people
yeah,
from
that's right.
the islands have come here and they're building that there.
Pacific
It's a, what do they call
Outrigger.
those? An
An
outrigger,
outrigger, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, where was this one being constructed?
This one is being built by a master carver up at Skokomish.
Great.
And we met him over 3 years ago, and we were at a Ojibwe cultural immersion camp up at the Evergreen State College in Olympia.
It's not Ojibwe country.
Well, so
Stretch it a little.
yeah. So anyway, we're from all over the country, and we, the person there, had this cultural immersion camp for the students at Evergreen, and a couple of our elders went to that and built a birch bark canoe, and it was part of that particular canoe journey that year in 2012. It was at Squaxin Island. So we came back and we said, well, this is something that we really should start here. It's time. And so that's how it got started, was from a couple of our elders going up there, participating in the Ojibwe Cultural Immersion Camp, and coming back and really, inspiring us to get it started. And so we did.
And now it's going full bore.
Oh,
now.
it's going full board, yeah. But it's been a long journey. It's been 3 years, but I should say that we are right on track with what we had set for ourselves 3 years ago. The first year we said, this first year we're just simply going to learn. We're just going to listen, we're going to observe, we're going to learn. That's all we're going to do. And so we did. We went to different places and we just sat and listened. We had speakers come in and talk about the Canoe Journey and what it was about. We started just making plans. We started meeting. We started just planning. That's all we did. And then the second year, we took training, and we took some cold water training over at the Dells with a group of river people, and other kinds of things. We had been collaborating with the Grand Ronde Canoe Family, and so we've been working with them quite a bit over these last few years.
Good.
And then the training was, it's called the Healing of the Canoe Curriculum. And it was developed by the University of Washington out of Seattle and the Suquamish tribe, and based on their teachings. So they were able to develop these modules, in 10 different units, and it was ideal for NAYA. NAYA has got an early college academy, high school students who are struggling to graduate, and so they're inspired to finish their education, yet they are challenged. And they've been facing so many challenges throughout their whole educational career, and they face this every day, but they come to school, they come to NAYA. Great. So these are the kids that we've been working with, and we've been able to provide at least 2 classes or 2 sessions of 10 weeks each, and it fit right in with that curriculum.
So they get credit?
They get credit for it.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd like to
So
hear
there's
that.
a lot to what we've been doing, and it's just multifaceted. It's out there, and it's actually happening. And after 3 years of planning and hard work, blood, sweat, and tears kind of stuff, we've got it going. And when we started, was it just last year or the year before, when people started donating canoes to us. So small river lake canoes, okay? And we had naming ceremonies for the canoes. Frank named the first one the Eagle, the Raven,
The Eagle and the Raven, yes.
Chinook,
Nice.
Yes.
and then Sky. So we have those 4 small canoes, and we've been collecting things as we go along. We get a paddle or an oar here, different sizes. We might have a wooden one, we might have a pine one, we might have a plastic one, we might have, So anyway, we have
Aluminum.
Yes, all of those things, but we had them, and so we were practicing and practicing. And NAYA is on it's on an ancient Chinook village, and is it called near Chochiku? Is that how to say that?
Yeah, that's close enough.
That's close enough. Okay. And Lewis and Clark actually when they came down the Columbia River, came upon this village, huge village, right there on the Columbia Slough, and that's where NAYA is today. Wow. So we've been very fortunate to have that kind of history behind us.
Yeah.
And everything is just our ancestors are telling us this is what we have to do, and that's what we're doing.
Now, does the canoe have a captain?
It's a skipper, and his name is Lucas
Angus,
Angus,
yes.
And you probably know.
Yeah, I know Lucas.
Yeah. And so he's a Nez Perce and Alaska native.
Less than Tlingit.
Tlingit, yeah.
Tlingit.
And
how about is it a crew, or how many pullers?
we have about 30 pullers.
Great.
And we practice every other week on the Willamette River.
Good.
And then we also practice singing when we're not out on the river. We're singing and learning new songs and different things like that, and practicing our protocol.
Yeah.
And
protocol. We'll get to that.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that there's also over 30.
There's about 30, and all,
That's great.
yeah, young people, elders, we've been, out there just leading by example is really what we're doing.
Now, are
And
you a puller?
I've been out on the canoe and on the Willamette, and,
Good.
Have
you been out there, Frank?
I haven't, but when I was a younger man, I certainly did.
Sure.
But when you turn 80, you kind of leave it up to
That's a
That's
good
right.
idea.
To the
You're
young
a
guys
supervisor now.
somebody with more muscle.
yeah.
Well, good. Well, these canoe gatherings that have been going on recently, do you know when they started?
Well,
the resurgence of the gathering?
Yeah. From my understanding, and maybe, and I could be wrong, but during the Washington State, I want to say centennial in '89. So how long ago is that?
26.
20-some years.
27 years.
And it started by a family. A family was asked to commemorate that with a canoe journey, and they did. And so that's been the resurgence. And so it started from just a few canoes in Seattle, celebrating the centennial, and it's grown to thousands and thousands of people coming together annually to celebrate. Yeah.
And some beautiful canoes, too,
yes.
that they're riding in. The fancy, traditional painted ones with the big pointed bow with a figure on the front.
That's going to be us.
People have got to get up there and see it when it happens end of July and in August. And it'll be in Nisqually this next summer. So protocol is like the whole process that you go through. When you arrive at the shore, you're welcomed by the community. They sing, you sing. Tell us all about protocol, Frank, please.
Well, protocol is kind of another word for ceremony and etiquette, respect.
Yeah.
In the old days, people had respect for songs. I mean, you never sang somebody else's song unless you had their permission. And protocol, when they went out in a canoe and they went to another village or to a clan house or something like this, and you would stop out in the water. Your canoe would stop out in the water, and you would ask permission to land, because they had respect for the people and their longhouse and their clan house, on the beach. So they would pull up and they would call and ask for permission. The people on the beach would call out, and who are you? Where do you come from? And the people in the canoe might say, we are the Dog Salmon clan from Heidelberg, or from Tlinkwan, or Sukwan, and let them know who they are. And, we wish to land, on your beach. And, after conferring a little bit, it was just natural that, come in. And protocol, sometimes they would be singing their song as they came into the beach. They'd sing their paddle song, their water song, their canoe song. And, David, a long time ago, the people on the beach, they were very strong people. The chiefs, had slaves. What they would actually do to show their wealth and power, to their visitors, they might kill a slave and lay his body on the beach. And then they'd pull that canoe up, over the slave, just to show that the power, that they had. And actually, for the slave, it was a great honor to be chosen for that.
Yeah.
And so they'd, bring their canoes up on the beach, and then they'd sing a welcome song the people from that clan or village you were visiting, they would sing a welcome song, and then they'd bring them all in, make sure everybody had, place to rest, and then prepare for a feast.
Mm-hmm.
They'd have a big feast and giveaway.
Mm-hmm.
The people in the canoe that landed would bring gifts for their hosts, all kinds of gifts. You need to understand that a long time ago, for our people, along the coastal tribes, our wealth was not measured by how much you accumulated, but our wealth was measured by how much you gave away. And so they'd bring gifts to all the people, and they'd give away, all that they had, so that their guests, would be happy. Because they knew that one day, the guests might come to them too, and they also would receive gifts. So protocol, like I say, it's a matter of respect. No one would take something that was not theirs. Nobody would steal, Mm-hmm. It's, everything was shared. And there was a great respect. The people were known. They knew who, who's the royalty, in the clan, in the tribe. They know who they were. My wife, Rosa, she's a great-granddaughter of Chief Sunny Hat. He was the last traditional chief of the Kaigani Haida.
Oh.
And, what happened in the 20s and 30s, the government came in and they wanted to build schools for the villages. Mm-hmm. So what they said, we're going to build a school right here. Then they say, if you want your children to go to school, you must bring all your children in from your villages and you must move here.
Hmm.
And so a lot of villages were abandoned.
Yeah.
But that's a little bit off protocol. Just a little background history.
So as you prepare for protocol, the upcoming protocol, what all do you guys have to do to be ready for protocol when you go up to Nisqually?
Well, all the people for our Portland, our NAYA Family Center, all the people who are members of the NAYA Canoe Journey family, were making gifts. Mm-hmm. We're making gifts, we're buying gifts, we're assembling a lot of things. Just as a sample, these paddles right here were made and donated by one of our members, and they will be given away.
Yeah, there's one.
It's swimming upside down, but that's all right. Mm-hmm.
These are beautiful. They feel like yellow cedar, really lightweight.
Now these are ceremonial paddles. Of course, the ones that we use, on the ocean, on the river. If you stand up, it'll be reach your chin or your nose somewhere in there. That's the size of the paddle, mm-hmm. because it has to reach down, into the water.
Right. So these ceremonial paddles, they're just for gift giving.
They're just for gift giving. And when you walk into a clan house, you see paddles along the wall, and you know exactly which clan that you're in. Mm. These might be dog salmon, king salmon, Chinook, or other types of salmon. I don't see any halibut on there. Nope. But the designs on the paddle will tell you, what clan, they belong to. And ceremonial paddles are used a lot in singing. You take two paddles like this in here, and you tap them together, and you sing your water songs, you sing your canoe songs and paddle songs. If you're not using a drum. Uh-huh. But you get in a place like that, and you hear 30 of these paddles going. It's quite quite lift up, you know. It
Oh,
just
yeah.
makes your heart swell up.
Yeah. So did you make something for the
Yes,
protocol?
we did. Yeah, my wife and I,
Right.
we've been working.
Good.
It's an old tradition,
Yeah.
a very old tradition that I learned from on the coast in Aberdeen. You take a new scarf, you know, the kind of bandana, you put it on your head, and you tie a coin in a corner. You tie a coin in there, and we made a whole bunch of them. We made 25 of them, you know, for giveaway. And you know, the coin goes in the pocket. Of course, a banana might be used around the head. It might be used around the neck. It might be used in many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so we thought that would be a revival of an old tradition.
Very nice.
People give what they can,
Yeah.
you know, whatever they can, how big or how small.
Doesn't
I
matter.
was at a giveaway one time and talking to this person. He's sitting there. And he says he goes to every giveaway. He says, it doesn't matter, you know, what I get. What matters is that they called my name, that they recognized me. What matters is that they remembered me and called my name.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I said a little earlier, you know, your wealth is measured by what you give away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was on the Umatilla Reservation back home near Pendleton on my res. There was no ill will against people who were destitute, poor, because we had a different view of what poor was. If you give away everything you have, you're rich because you're generous. You may not have anything when it's all said and done, but that, you know, somebody else will be generous and they'll come along and give to you because that generosity keeps going in the circle. But when you break that circle, that's when things really start to go wrong. Lose sight of the giving that was such a tradition for us, and it's kind of been pushed away by the modern society. And it's good to see that coming back in, especially with this event. And Mary, I wanted to ask what did you make for the protocol?
Well, I was inspired by Rosa, and she makes these beautiful purses or pouches, and it's made of the black Pendleton Melton, it's called, the wool.
Wool, yeah.
Okay, and she trims it with the red bias, and then sews abalone buttons on them.
Nice.
So, although I'm not from the Northwest Coast, our people really know about buffalo, and yet we also know about the hummingbird and the dragonflies and the bears and the wolves. And so I was able to start I made a number of these small pouches, and they have the red wool felt bias, and then they have the abalone shells on them.
Nice.
But instead of the traditional Northwest Coast designs, they have a buffalo, and they'll have a bear, or they'll have
Very
a
good,
hummingbird,
yeah.
and they'll have something that
Personal touch.
right. But it is inspired by Northwest Coast and by what Rosa taught us, and that was another one of the activities that we've been doing, is learning all of these different kinds of skills over the last 3 years.
Good.
And, yeah. So.
Well, what are some of the other gifts that other people are making for protocol?
We've gotten a number of people have made baskets and cedar mats, cedar hats.
Great.
Oh, yeah, we've made these
Wooden
stick
items,
games.
yeah.
Yeah.
Stick game items, wooden items,
Stick game
carving.
item. Nice.
We have a person who is a carpenter, and he has a shop that we've been able to go out and make our own canoes that are for the pullers. So a puller might be 5'10", or they might be 5 feet, and you have to individualize them.
Yeah.
And these particular paddles are made of cedar, but they're also made just for that particular puller. And so each puller has their own paddle that they've made. And so, you know, so it's things like that.
And it might have his own design.
Right.
It might, the design might be his clan, or, you know, whatever else that he might choose to identify himself, you know, as a part of that paddle.
Well, and the songs are a gift too, in a sense.
Right.
The songs are a
Give the
gift.
songs.
You do, you know, we have our people that make songs and create songs, and they own those songs. And some songs are very sacred songs and may only be used in certain areas, such as, say, like a Sundance or a sweat lodge, or a different kind of ceremony. Some songs were made and they might not have words to it, they'll have only a melody, which would mean that, you know, they could be used by others, but you don't take somebody else's song, you know, unless they give you permission. Generally, you hear a really good song, you know, in a ceremony, you go up and you ask that person, you know, may we use a song? We have our clan, you know, and when we lose somebody, we need a sacred song like that. We need a burial song, or we need a naming song, or we need a song of celebration and joy. May we use a song. And if he gives you permission, then, you know, you can use that song.
Yeah.
But you also, before you sing it, you let them know that the song was given to us by so-and-so, and we have permission to use a song.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there might be somebody out there
Thinking you're stealing
thinking,
it.
oh, you're stealing a song.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not good. Well, and when you get to the host, do they give gifts to the canoe, the people that come in on canoes? Do they receive gifts from the host?
Generally,
work?
the canoe that comes in, you know, will give gifts to the host for accepting there. And before they leave, you know, the host may give them gifts also. It's gift sharing it's a tradition, it's a culture.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's you know, your respect, you know, and your wealth is measured by what you give away. And you know, even today, I remember things that were given to me, you know, and I keep them. As like this. This is silver made from a silver dollar, given to me by my brother-in-law, Warren Peel. And I'll always cherish it. I'll always keep it with me.
Yeah.
It's a dog salmon on there, and because he's a member of the dog salmon clan. Speaking of clans, you know, on the coastal tribes, everybody belongs to a clan. There are two major clans, the eagle and the raven. And with their clans, they're what you call moieties. There's a wolf, the bear, dog salmon, all these different creatures, you know, that everybody belongs to a certain clan. See, my wife is a raven with dog salmon clan. When a child is born, they follow their mother. And one thing that in our clans do, a raven may not marry a raven, and an eagle may not marry an eagle. Why? 10,000 years ago, they found out that if people who are related got married, that there may be some kind of, what shall I say, deformity or some birth defect. And so they set up the clan system and said that clansmen may not marry within their clan.
Oh, very good.
They figured that out
Yeah, a long time
a
ago.
long time ago. And so, being an Inupiat Eskimo, you know, when I moved to my wife's village, you know, and we got married there, and she's a raven that makes me an eagle. I have to be an eagle, you know, because I cannot
Yeah,
be in the same clan as she is.
yeah, of course. Well, I'm glad to know that the clans are still respected and they're still considered.
Very much so.
Yeah, that's
Very
great.
much so.
Great to hear. Well, we kind of mentioned the date about when this is all happening, and the NAYA canoe. Will you leave right here out of Portland and start paddling right here in the Willamette, or
Well,
the
right
slough?
now, well, we're beyond the slough. The big canoe, the ocean-going canoe, will not be on the slough, but we've been practicing on the Willamette. The person who was making our canoe, his name is John Smith from Skokomish. When he learned that we were practicing on these small canoes in the slough, he loaned us one of his canoes, and it's a 30-foot ocean-going canoe
Wow.
that he made.
Great.
And so he let us use that. We've been using that. We practice every other week on the Willamette, and we look for those wakes, those as tugboats go by, we
Yeah,
get as
jump 'em.
close. Yeah. And
Like
but I know
skiers.
we're gonna have. We won't have to worry about that once we get on the. But right now we look for those wakes, and
Yeah,
so we
make
practice
it a
every other weekend.
challenge.
Yeah.
Well, if it's that big, how many people could go in a canoe
Well,
that size?
right now we have. I think we can have. I think 10 or 11, counting the skipper, and so 2 people sit.
Boy.
Yeah, on each side, and skipper in the back, and
Yeah.
yeah. And so it's really developing that teamwork and that rhythm, and just all the breathing and the stamina and the teamwork that has to happen there, and just relying on your teammates. So that's that's one of the life skills that they're working on, and
Good.
the stamina that it takes, because
Sure.
it does.
If you're going to go all the way to Nisqually, that's a lot of paddling.
It's a lot of paddling.
There's going to be rest stations along the way, because you stop at night,
Oh, sure.
and as they pull into a beach at a pre-designated beach, they may have tents, may have food cooking, and spend the night there.
Well, now, if some of our viewers want to get involved, how could they get involved with the NAYA Canoe Family?
We have a Facebook page.
That
Which
would be
is
easy
pretty
to check
cool.
out.
Yeah.
Make connections there.
Yeah. So check us out on our Facebook page and call NAYA and find out. We have regular meetings every 2 weeks. We just had a meeting yesterday.
Wednesday.
And Wednesday. Every other Wednesday we're meeting there at NAYA in the elders room, and planning. So making sure that we've got our budget on track, we've got the protocol on track, the songs on track, the logo on, everything has to be in order. And so we know that at the last minute everything's going to fall apart and we're going to wing it. But that's part of it. Yeah.
That's
so,
great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited about it. I was so glad when I first heard it. And I know the Warm Springs just started a canoe family of their own. A friend of mine, Jefferson Green, down in Warm Springs, he's kind of the skipper for a canoe family out of Warm Springs. And there were some canoes that some guys built up at Priest Rapids, some old-fashioned dugout canoes.
Oh, yeah.
And made their own paddles and brought them down to the 50th year memorial for Celilo Falls. And that was really neat to see those old dugouts with their handmade paddles. And those were really old-style dugout canoes.
That's going to be, this is the 3rd year, And, we've been right on track with what our mission was and what our goals and objectives were for each year. And what we're going to be planning next year or the year after is actually doing a dugout canoe. And so we'll see, but that's in the works. That's part of the plan. So.
Well, and I hope that maybe in your biggest dreams you're thinking someday you could host a
Wouldn't that
gathering.
be something?
That would be something
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
to have 1,000 canoes coming up the river.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, think about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could
Yeah.
be in the future.
It's a real possibility.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
Wouldn't that be something? Yeah, that would.
Because everywhere they've gone in, had a big impact on the community.
Mm-hmm.
I know the local people really pay attention, say, well, we didn't even know there were all these canoes and all these Indian people coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, it's
So
really
a
something
great
to
resurgence.
see. We went up to Quinault in 2013, I think it was, and just to be, you're out in the ocean, you're just out in the mist, and you're just welcoming these people, and you're almost in tears thinking how beautiful that sight is.
Yeah.
To see all the canoes lined up and waiting to come in, and the singers and dancers welcoming them. And we got just a taste of that last August. We went up with the Canoe family up to Union, Washington, and came down the Hood Canal from around Belfair, Washington. And so we came down that canal from Belfair down to Skokomish, and it was about 12 miles, something like that. But that was the first taste of what a canoe journey is on a big body of water,
Yeah.
and then also of what the protocol would be, and to hear the singing and to actually see how they did that. And a lot of the Canoe family, our Canoe family, that was, like I said, the first time they'd been on one of the big ocean-going canoes, and there they were. It just was inspiring for them to be able to see that, and then to see the protocol and see the food. Oh my goodness, what a feast!
So there were 1,000 people at the last one, you'd guess?
The one that we went up to at Quinault, I would say there was 10,000 people.
Oh.
They had,
Boy.
these huge, I don't know what they call those tents, but they're those great big circus tents.
Yeah.
One was for food, one was for, other kinds of things, and they had another tent just for the protocol, and they had bleachers, and they're in a great big arena, and each Canoe family would come in and singing their songs and dancing in their traditional ways. So that's going to be different for us because we're from all over the country. So Dakota people are going to be there, Ojibwe people are going to be there, jingle dress dancers are going to be there, traditional dancers are going to be there. And so, we come from, we're an intertribal group, and so many tribes, and we'll all be representing our own tribes, but as the NAYA Family Canoe Journey.
That's great.
Yeah.
When we first started having a canoe program starting up, I thought there would be just the coastal people. Astoria, Seattle, all these little villages, towns along the coast. And then next thing you know, they're coming from Warm Springs. They're coming from, and you're talking about Lakota people coming. And Grand Round, they're up the river from the coast. But they're joining in. I mean, it has taken such a hold. It has garnered so much interest. But you have to remember that these canoes, they were in use, 200-300 years ago. Lewis and Clark came all the way from where? All the way up the rivers, and all by canoe. And they met all these tribes along the rivers you know, they had their canoes, and they got out to the coast, you know, and the tribes out there had their canoes. Everybody had a canoe. Kind of like today, everybody has a car.
Yeah.
You know, but in those days, you know, everybody had a canoe. Because the rivers, the lakes, and the ocean, those were our roads. You know, that's how you got around.
Yeah, and even up on my reservation, the Umatilla, we were a fishing people. So our lives revolved around the river. That was the main source of food. Of course, we went up the mountains and gathered roots and berries and stuff too. But we were river people, and salmon was our mainstay, so we were always in the water. So there's been discussion back home in Pendleton about having a canoe group, starting a Canoe Family back there, and they even started building a dugout, I think, just for show. But I don't think it's really come together yet as a group that wants to do like a Canoe Family like we have here. But they're talking about it. So after Warm Springs get theirs going, maybe the Umatillas will get jealous and want to keep up with the Springers and get their own canoe. We'll see.
My wife is a Haida, you know, from Heidelberg, on Prince of Wales Island. And they had canoes, you know, that carry 50 warriors.
Yeah.
And they would go from Prince of Wales Island, which is Craig, Cloaca, around Ketchikan, and they would go all the way down past Columbia River, you know, down to southern Oregon.
Wow.
For raiding and trading. And, you know, that's how so much ideas about living, about life, about materials, you know, they trade everything, you know. They brought a lot of goods with them, trade. And they brought back a few slaves with them, too.
And to think about paddling for 800 or 1,000 miles one way for raiding, and then to carry everything back, you know, paddling with a great big load and you're going back home. Boy, I just can't imagine the energy that it took for those guys back then in all kinds of weather, you know, with no rain gear other than their intestine.
No compass and
no compass.
Two-way radio. And
and they managed to get all the way up.
And when they go all the way up the river, you know, they'd always use the tide. You know, the Columbia River is a big river. When the tide comes in, that's a good time to paddle upriver. When the tide goes out, that's a good time to paddle from Umatilla, you know, down to the coast. Go with the tide.
Yeah. Well, the tide hits clear up past the Sandy River, I know, on the Columbia, where you can feel the effects of tide way upriver. So I have a canoe of my own. I mean, it's plastic.
Exactly.
But I get out, and I have two grandsons who love to get out on the canoe. And I'm going to make canoeists out of those boys.
That's good, you know.
Yeah.
You learn at a certain age. You know, you don't stand up and play in a canoe.
That's right.
You know.
Unless you want to go swimming.
That's right.
With the canoe, too.
But you learn at an early age, you know, the protocol or the way, you know, the paddle, how you steer, how you make it turn around.
Well, now, when I was learning how to run a canoe, one of the things we had to do in Boy Scouts was tip it over. Do you guys ever do you have practice tipping over your...
Actually, they have. Not on the big canoe, but when we were still using the small canoes, the river canoes, they would tip them over, and just to make sure that people were able to, you know, have that experience.
Yeah.
So, but now getting on the Hood Canal and the Puget Sound, that's going to be a bit different than, you know, tipping over on the Columbia Slough. So.
That's right. Just keep it upright.
Yeah.
That's the key.
My people, you know, they had the kayaks. Of course, the name kayak came from the Inupiat people, Eskimo people. And a canoe to sit down in might just be a hole like this. You know, in the canoe, it'd be all covered with skin. And they could tighten that around them. And I've seen pictures of where the Eskimo people, what they'd do is they'd throw themselves over, they'd go down in the water, they'd use their paddle, to push them all the way up, and they'd surface on the other side. That would be expert kayaking.
Well, there was an old video that was done back in the 30s. And darn, I can't remember the name of it now. But the opening scene was of a Alaskan, I don't know, he was in a kayak, I don't know what nation or anything. But he had a kid and a dog on top of the kayak as he rolled in. The dog got out, kid got out, man got out. Pretty soon his wife came crawling out of the hole. And then a kid came crawling out of the hole. And then 3 puppies, that the dog, probably the dog on top, 3 puppies came out of the inside too. It was just amazing. I don't know how long he had gone with his wife and kid inside, you know, paddling to the shore. But he was able to get everybody to where he needed to go in this one little kayak, just stuffed to the brim. Boy, that was really efficient way to move around. And then another scene from that movie, they were using a breathing hole to hunt for seals and walruses. And a guy set something, a hair or something, on top of the hole, so when the seal came up to breathe, it would suck that little feather down, and then he knew to spear it. And he speared this walrus, as it turned out. And the walrus started pulling, and he started pulling, and they fought. He was going, and then he'd go back down to the hole. Then he'd get back, and then he'd go down to the hole again. And he was calling all his buddies, and pretty soon about 3 or 4 guys, and they were tug of war with this walrus in this little tiny hole. And eventually you could see they wore out the walrus, and they were able to make the hole bigger, pull this walrus out of the hole. And that was great. I just love those old movies of the scenes. For instance, the sleds that they used, they had to suck water in their mouth from the sea and spread it on the bottom of their sleds so they would have ice on the runner.
It'd freeze and it'd be very slippery.
Oh yeah, that's a great way to go. That's a genius to think that would be the way to put ice on the bottom of your sled and to go that much faster in the snow. Of course, I've heard that Alaska lately hasn't had much snow. Have you guys heard?
They had to truck in snow from the mountains to start the Iditarod race.
Yeah, I think they had to do that last year too.
I can remember when I was my wife and I are living in Anchorage, and I remember when they had to do that.
Yeah.
There's just no snow. And someplace back east, New York or someplace, they were inundated with snow. And as a gag, the mayor of Anchorage sent letters or a mail telegram to the mayor of some city back east, and could you please send some of your snow to Alaska?
Yeah, it has been weird, the weather up in Alaska the last couple of years, and they're worried about methane releases, and it's been tough on the salmon runs in the Yukon.
Well, the polar bears are very important to the Eskimo people, very, very important to the Eskimo people. And as the icebergs and as the ice retreats and melts, the polar bears are going to disappear. They will become extinct.
Yeah.
Because they need that ice too to do their hunting and to rest and sleep and, mate. And they have to have that ice.
Yeah.
So before long, the polar bear will become extinct.
Yeah, it's really too bad. And yet Canada, they are still doing that, extracting oil from sand, throwing all these chemicals into the ground and destroying the surface to pull everything off. And I've seen some huge clear cuts in southeastern Alaska too, Admiralty Island. I saw a clear cut that encompassed an entire river basin. Apparently there's not a lot of regulations for some of the privately owned property in southeast Alaska.
Maybe they're making a whole bunch of canoes. All that cedar,
Yeah.
all that red cedar and yellow cedar up there.
That would be nice. Hey, I forgot to mention on the last program how proud I am of my new drum. You guys have seen, well, this is my old drum. I've had it on the show for years now. And I decided that I would get an artist to paint my drum because I had thought for years, oh, I can paint my drum, no problem. But yeah, I'm not the artist that I should be. So I had a professional artist, Ellen Taylor. This is her signature right here. And Ellen is from my tribe, the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation. And Ellen does great work. She's done murals and cowboy hats. She does these neat straw hats that she'll do with her designs. She uses similar designs with other materials. And I just love Ellen. She does great work. And thanks you guys for letting me tell my audience how much I appreciate Ellen and the work she does on my hand drum. And I had my grandson, the first one to play it, so he could bless my new picture on the hand drum. Well, we're getting close to the end of our program. We have just a couple minutes. Mary, is there anything else that we missed that you may want to mention about NAYA or the Canoe Family?
Well, some of the upcoming things that we'll be involved with, beginning, the regional skippers meeting is coming up to the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. They'll be hosting that on April 2nd. So if anybody wants to get more information about the real nitty-gritty part of planning, April 2nd is coming up real fast.
April 2nd in Grand Ronde.
And then one thing that our Canoe family is doing is we'll be participating in the gourd dance that's coming up at NAYA on April 16th.
16th. I haven't
Okay, so
noticed
that's
for
coming
that.
up.
Yes, so
and
I should have brought the announcement for that. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
that would be good. Yeah.
Yeah, the gourd dance.
And then let's see what else. We'll be participating in the Tualatin River Wild Bird Festival, and that is, I want to say May 16th or somewhere in there. It's a Saturday, and so we'll be not hosting it, but we'll be tabling at those events. And we also, once our canoe is finished, we're going to have an official launch, a ceremonial launch on the Willamette River.
With a bottle of champagne?
We don't do champagne. We do not do
You better
champagne.
not.
Yeah. And so we'll be doing that at, we practice at Cathedral Park. So if people want to join us,
Great. Thank you.
think about Sundays. We have soup and refreshments.
Thank you, Mary. We've got to go.
All right.
We'll see you next
All right.
time.
All right. Thank you so much
everybody.
for having
Behind the
us.
scenes. Great job.